Friends, it's Pastor Veronica here with a special story time just for you. Things look a little bit different behind me. In fact, it's kind of weird. You can see my reflection in the mirror behind me. It's so wild. Sort of like, you can see me, and then you can see me, and you can see me. Wild, right? Well, I've got to change things up a little bit because pretty soon I'm going to be reading stories from all over our church space coming up in just a couple of weeks because I'll be moving back to the church office. And so I'm excited to be able to kind of show you some different spaces around our campus. I'm hoping to read some stories outside around different areas of our space, and to read some in some different spaces around our church building. We have some really special spaces. But for now, we're still in my cozy home office, and I'm excited to share with you one of my favorite stories, and this story is called Angelina On Stage. Illustrations by Helen and story by Katharine Holabird. Angelina was a ballerina, and I actually, somewhere in all of my things, I have a stuffed Angelina ballerina in her dress, just like she is on the cover. She's a little mouse, and she's got ballet slippers and a pink tutu. So when I was a little girl, I used to dance ballet, and I loved it. In fact, my very first dance class ever when I was 3 years old was a ballet class. My mom has a picture of me in a pink leotard, white tights, and pink ballet slippers, like what Angelina is wearing. Well, I'm excited to share with you Angelina On Stage for tonight's story time. Angelina's cousin Henry liked to go to her ballet lessons at Miss Lily's and join in the dancing. Henry always followed close behind Angelina, copying her graceful steps, but he wiggled and wobbled and didn't look like a ballet dancer at all. Can you find Henry in the picture? I see him, he's right there. After each class, Angelina showed Henry the right way to do the pliés and arabesques and twirls. But Henry kept on dancing in his own funny way. Then one day, Miss Lily received a letter from Mr. Popoff, the great musical director. "Angelina," said her ballet teacher, "how would you like to be a magic fairy in a real grown-ups ballet?" Angelina was thrilled. "Oh, yes," she cried. "It is called the Gypsy Queen," said Miss Lily excitedly. Then she turned to Henry. "Mr. Popoff needs a little elf too, and you are the perfect size." "Hooray!" shouted Henry, but Angelina just crossed her fingers for good luck, hoping he wouldn't do anything too silly. At rehearsals, Angelina learned to fly through the air with a special wire attached to her costume, so that she looked like a fairy floating down out of the sky. Henry was supposed to scamper through the woods below looking for the fairy, but he often got mixed up and went the wrong way. All the actors and actresses adored Henry anyway, and during the breaks, the lovely Madame Zizi gave him little treats in her dressing room. Then Mr. Popoff decided that Henry should say something on stage, and Angelina felt very jealous. Everyone cheered when Henry came on stage and said in his little squeaky voice, "There goes my friend, the magic fairy." But he was not so good at finding his way from the dressing room to the stage, and was always getting lost. On the first night of the performance, everyone backstage was very excited. Angelina waited in the wings with her crown on and her wand ready as the audience crowded into the theater and the orchestra began to play. Madame Zizi glanced around nervously and said, "Oh dear, where's my little elf?" Angelina ran wildly through the corridors looking for Henry and bumped into him as he was running the wrong way down the hall. "I got lost again," Henry sobbed as Angelina grabbed his hand and raced back to the stage. Angelina had her special wire fastened just in time. She soared up over the trees, waving her magic wand as Henry jumped out from the wings and skipped through the woods to the front of the stage. Henry turned and saw the theater filled with lights and a sea of strange faces. He couldn't open his mouth. He just stared out at the audience. For an awful moment, nothing happened. Serves him right, thought Angelina, still feeling annoyed. But when she looked down and saw how terrified Henry looked, she felt sorry for him. Angelina waved her magic wand and called to Henry in a loud, clear voice. "Hello, little elf, can you see me?" Henry looked up with relief and said, "There goes my best friend, the magic fairy." At the end of the show, Angelina and Henry took a curtain call with all the actors and dancers. The audience cheered and clapped, and the director thanked everyone for a wonderful performance. Madame Zizi gave Angelina some of her own roses, and Mr. Popoff smiled at her and said, "You're a fine actress, and you'll have a speaking part too from now on." Angelina was so pleased that she took Henry by the hands and waltzed around the stage with him until they were both very dizzy. And that is the end of our story. Again, tonight's story was Angelina on Stage, with illustrations by Helen Craig and a story by Katharine Holabird. Angelina the Ballerina is a whole series of books all about her adventures as a mouse ballerina in Mouse World. I love her story so much. And in fact, because I knew I was going to be reading about Angelina, I actually wanted to bring out my ballet slippers for you. They are pretty beat up and old, and I'm sure that they don't fit anymore. But I like to bring them out so that folks can see what they look like. Now, Angelina doesn't wear shoes like this because she's a brand new dancer, but when you've been dancing for a long time, you can get point shoes as well. So I just thought I'd show them to you. Kind of interesting looking. Now they just sort of hang up as a decoration in our space. But I thought I'd share them with you anyway. They're a little bit stinky too. Ooh, that's what happens when you wear them on your feet, right? Well, I hope you enjoyed Angelina on Stage, and I hope that you'll check out some more of the Angelina Ballerina books. I know I'm a big fan of them as well. Well, friends, whenever you go to sleep, I hope that you sleep well, and I hope that you remember that God loves you, and so do I. Good night.